everyone. Well, it's a good morning, good afternoon, or maybe a good late evening for some of you guys who've joined us from across the world. We currently, as I see, have about 40 participants, and the numbers just been ticking over the last couple of minutes. But thanks for joining. My name is Gurudeep Ramakrishna, and I'm a part of Unventured. We're an experiential travel company that focuses on curating local and authentic experiences across India, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. One of the things that got us inspired to begin this journey we call Unventured was a love for the outdoors, our open-mindedness to different cultures and religions. Most importantly, I think it's the storytelling and the stories from places. Be it history or whether it's legend, there's always tradition to each town, city, ethnic community, or country. And it's these stories of places that actually add so much meaning to a place. And that's exactly why we're here, to kind of get a put out a small little story for you all, as we're all caught in this, caught in the midst of this pandemic of sorts. And well, hopefully the next 60 minutes will be very interesting for y'all. So one of the things about Unventured is we offer guided experiences or self-guided tours across India, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. And most of this is catered to varying audiences, whether you're an active, outdoorsy person, or you're a group of friends or family who want to get out and explore a region, kind of get a more grounded feel for the region, from its culture, history, local food. Unventured are the folks who kind of want to dig up all of this, and me included. We love doing this, and that's what has got us started. So let's begin this session, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, let me start up with my slide deck, and bear with me for a second. Okay. Well, today I'll be your virtual guide through this brief journey through Sikkim, a small and very mesmerizing region in India that is unlike any other. I say it is unlike any other because of what it holds on to from its culture and traditions. But more importantly, before I begin, I'd like to let you know that this session will be for 60 minutes. We're going to spend the first 40 minutes, mostly in the form of a presentation. I say mostly because now I myself don't enjoy long, unending slides that tend to become boring. So what we've tried to do, the team here at Unventured, is that we've tried to bring in some videos, mostly videos from Sikkim, from our experiences in various tours we've led in this region. So hopefully that will make it a good mix of not just boring slides and stuff about Sikkim, but also interesting videos. But along the way, we'll also put out some interesting suggestions that we can make for where to stay, what to do, what to see, what not to miss. I think that's also a very integral part of this whole session. Now, towards the end, we're going to spend the last 15 minutes on a session of Q&A. And you can post your questions in the Q&A section. You should be able to see that at the bottom of your screen. We'll be happy to answer some of your questions. Now, please note that information shared by us today will also be available as a short transcript. You can write to us at get@unventured.com, and we'll try and send you some information. Now, into Sikkim. Now, legend has it that Sikkim is hailed as one of the last utopias, or a place of migration, a place of imagination, a place that is just perfect. It was coined so by the Buddhist guru Padmasambhava. He's also revered as Guru Rinpoche. So we want to take you on this journey to learn what makes Sikkim this place of imagination where everything is perfect. And hopefully towards the end, we'll also want to believe what Guru Rinpoche said. Right. Sikkim is located on the eastern part of India, It's actually considered like a gateway into the northeast of India. And northeast primarily because northeast of India is very unlike the rest of India, very unique, and both from its people, culture, topography. The culture definitely permeates very strongly to be more a unique mix of Indian, Tibetan, and Southeast Asian cultures. And Sikkim kind of is the first starting point as a region that you go through. And as you go further deep into the northeast, um, um, it, the food culture, way people interact with you changes significantly. And that's what makes Sikkim and this region in the northeast very interesting. Now, the kingdom of Sikkim itself was founded by the Namgyal dynasty in the 17th century. It's a 300-year-old dynastic kingdom, and was was ruled by a Buddhist priest known as the Chogyal. Chogyal is in Tibetan refers to His Highness or the Great King. Now, Sikkim, stayed as this dynastic kingdom by itself, even past Indian independence until 1975. So for a period of 28 years post-independence, Sikkim continued to remain this region that governed and managed its own self. Although around about 1970, an anti-royalist riot took the first steps in Sikkim integrating itself with India. It became the 22nd state of independent India. One interesting fact I'd like to share with you guys here is Sikkim is perhaps the least densely populated states in the whole of India. Only 86 people for every square kilometer. Well, that's interesting. That's one interesting insight, at least I was amazed by as I heard it when I first wanted to look up Sikkim and started researching and actually went there. But when one thinks of Sikkim, the first thing that comes to our mind are the mountains, and most notably Mount Kanchenjunga. The second being rhododendrons, and definitely the unending stretches of green forested mountains, snow-capped peaks, and beautiful valleys, and obviously the abundant wildlife that it has, both flora and fauna. Sikkim's perfectness is perhaps for its bounty of nature. Here's a short video that we've compiled as part of celebrating Sikkim. Right. Now, the outdoors have always been the wanderlust for Sikkim. The most obvious is the rhododendrons blooming season. Lesser known are the wild orchids of Sikkim. There are some special interest groups that exclusively visit Sikkim to just spot and find unique orchid flowers and that are wild and primarily during their flowering season. The mountain peaks of trek are for trekkers and photographers have always frequented the high, dry mountains for some mesmerizing images and that feel like they're from another world. Bird watching is another great reason to explore the forests of Sikkim. At the center of my screen right now, you might see this whitish gray bird with streaks of red. It's called the Kalij pheasant, sorry, the blood pheasant. And it's actually the state bird of Sikkim. On the right of the screen, you'll see a red panda, a state animal for Sikkim. So these are just some of the snippets and images that you will get to see of Sikkim. One of the interesting things, and let's look at the geographic nature of Sikkim. Whoops, there you go. Right, so Sikkim has a very interesting geographic biodiversity. This is as we look from south to north and east to west. The southern part of Sikkim, which is more integrated into India, is a region that is filled with a lot of green diversity, mostly tropical forests. And towards the north is where the high peaks, the high altitude regions of Sikkim. North Sikkim is a place of landscapes, yak herders, very nomadic life, snow-capped peaks, and mostly scrub-like terrain in terms of its natural features. Eastern Sikkim, again, is landscapes. Eastern Sikkim is also synonymous for its own version of the Valley of Flowers. A lot of alpine trees, and the rhododendron blooms in this region are lesser known, lesser visited. There's perhaps more rhododendron treks that happen towards the west of Sikkim, or southern Sikkim, as we call it, and less in this region. That perhaps is probably a lesser known region, but a beautiful landscape for its Valley of Flowers in bloom. And this also happens around the same time when the rhododendrons bloom. Just a variance in altitude and region, but a beautiful time to be hiking and trekking in Eastern Sikkim. Southern Sikkim, as I was telling you guys, is definitely forests, orchids, rhododendron, and just most importantly, views of Mount Kanchenjunga. One cannot miss a morning sunrise or a sunset in Sikkim. Now, from Buddhist monasteries, its many tribes, their old traditions, influences from Hinduism, local food, the unique festivals and custom, perhaps Sikkim's perfectness is in its culture. Here's a short video that we've put together, kind of bringing together this flavor of Sikkim's culture. Right. Okay. Now, according to legend, Kya Bumsa, a 14th century prince from eastern Tibet, received a divine intervention, instructing him to travel south to seek his fortunes. Now, his fifth generation descendant, a person by the name Phuntsog Namgyal, became the founder of Sikkim's monarchy in 1642. when he was consecrated as the first Chogyal, or king, or the priest king of Sikkim, by the three venerated lamas of Yuksum. This image that you see is actually a place in Sikkim, in a place called Yuksum, a small little village that resides right at the edge of the Kanchenjunga National Park. And where we are visually right now is at the first coronation and the capital of Sikkim. Yuksum, this small little hamlet, was the first coronation crown place of the king of Sikkim. Now, since then, Tibet and Buddhism have continued to have a huge influence and for culture and tradition in Sikkim. You'll have to excuse us, guys. We're trying to just get our hold with this whole Zoom approach of doing tours. We prefer to be in person, smiling at you. I am still. You can just imagine me smiling at you and going through with this. But nevertheless, the name Sikkim itself, the origin of the theory is that it comes from two Limbu being a tribe of Sikkim, two Limbu words where Su, the first two alphabets, refers to new, and Kim refers to a place or a house. So a land of new house, perhaps the new house was what Sikkim became to be known as. Now, Sikkim has many tribes and communities that have existed for many generations. Sikkim has many official languages, 4 primary languages: English, Nepali, Sikkimese, and Lepcha. Yes, you heard it, Nepali as well. Sikkim has a huge influence of Nepali influence, primarily also because given that Sikkim borders Nepal, it has had over many years, the kingdom of Sikkim has had many feuds with its neighbors. And Nepalis have had an instance or a period of time where Nepal had taken over this small kingdom state. And since then, the Nepalese settled there and continue to become an integral part of the community. In 1642, as the Chogyal opened relations with Tibet, he founded the Bhutia monarchy. Bhutias were the community of people who migrated in from Tibet. On the screen, you're looking at these 4 primary tribes in Sikkim, the Limbu and Lepcha, known to be mostly prevalent in this region, with the Bhutias who came in much later and brought in Buddhist influences. The Gurungs are mostly Nepali community of people, and within them they have many, at least a few hundred sects or divides of communities that today make Sikkim home. What's interesting is the religious spread that they also bring in. The early idea of the early inhabitants of Sikkim did not, were more shamanistic in nature or animistic in their religious belief. Buddhism only came in much later. But what's interesting about this region is how Buddhism and shamanism have continued to coexist. The population of Sikkim today stands at about a little over 600,000 people. And you will see that they're fairly well divided among these communities, although these numbers are much older, from 2001, not too many records of latest numbers. Now, a little lesser known of the tribes of Sikkim is a small community of a few hundred people called the Drukpas. And this for us is a more interesting community of people in Sikkim. The Drukpas mostly live in the northern Himalayan region, about an altitude of 3,500 meters, and going further up till about 5,000 meters. It's believed that the Drukpas for centuries started the migratory route that spanned from the rugged frontiers of Tibet and into the kingdom of Sikkim. Originally, they were herders of yak and an interesting breed of sheep called the Tibetan Highland sheep. They've had a very transnational existence, these Drukpas. Although over the last few years, they've had to make Sikkim their home. Many Drukpas, who are also known as Doksas, they like to spend their summers in North Sikkim, where the alpine valleys provide rich grass for their herds of yak and sheep. And then as winter sets in, they cross over across the high mountains and into Tibet for winter, where they still have a lot more to avail in terms of feed and grass for their cattle. And then the circle would wind itself again. But this persisted until about the 1960s, by which time Tibet had fallen under the control of China, and Sikkim had entered into a special relationship with India. So what the Drukpas started to do, even through this period, well, even before this period, was also, they became the dominant force in this region. But more importantly, they also started becoming the people that were ferrying in people from across Tibet into India as well, bringing in goods and trade. If you consider and think of the old Silk Road, yes, you heard it, the old Silk Road. Sikkim also has its version of an old Silk Road that brought in stuff from China into this part of the world. And so the Drukpas perhaps were those few folks that bring in. Today, they're down to a few hundred numbers, and they continue to keep to a little bit of their nomadic livelihood. Interestingly enough, the Drukpas now cannot get into Tibet, but what they're known for is to be the only very unique tribe that grazes their cattle at lower altitudes during the summer months and the spring season, and go higher up into the freezing altitudes of 5,000 meters through winter months. They're the only tribe that goes higher into winters. Most tribes will come down, but they're a very unique tribe that goes higher up, simply because these valleys get filled so much with snow that they're unable to get hold of grass for their cattle to graze on. Instead, having to go higher into regions that have less vegetation ensures that the grass, the air is drier and there's lesser snowfall as well. Well, that's so much for Drukpas. One of the other interesting things that happens in every year in July is the little numbered Drukpa community comes together as part of a festivity in the month of July, where they celebrate this region, the land, and Buddhist monks from southern Sikkim go all the way up to help them conduct these ceremonies. And one of the most sought after sports during this celebration is their yak racing. And very, unlike most of the world, they have a very unique day in the year where they race on their yaks. And so that's an interesting experience to have, go herd with these yaks, understand nomadic livelihoods, and more. Today, the Drukpas are famous for their yak cheese, and we'll talk about that later. But that's a quick snippet about the Drukpas. Now, on to another interesting, insight into Sikkim. Sikkim has a very old history to shamans and shamanistic belief systems. Even, in fact, it existed even before Buddhism existed. In fact, when Buddhism was being firmly established in Sikkim, an alternate form of religion already existed in the region. It was shamanistic in nature, and they depended on nature and the outdoors and the forests to conduct a lot of their sermons and rituals. And Sikkim is indeed a very interesting kingdom where Buddhism became shamanistic and shamanism became Buddhism. And it's a very interesting mix of old and the new religions coming together and continuing to kind of support each other or sustain between each other. Although shamanism is dying. And on my screen to your left is the legend of Sikkim, the Banjakri and the Banjakrini. They're known to be the supernatural shamans of the forest. They're a legend and a story and tale for every child that grows up in Sikkim. So the grandparents will talk about the Banjakris. The Banjakris, the men, as they call Banjakris, derive their name, and it means people of the forest. Or Ban refers to wilderness, and Jakri refers to the shaman. And the Banjakri apparently picks up children who they believe have the capabilities to become shamans. And the Banjakri would take them into the caves in the forest. And the Banjakrini, the feminine form of the shamans, actually inducts them into becoming shamans. And they, over a few years, train these kids into becoming shamans. And it's believed that the kids who turn up becoming shamans trained by the Banjakris are more powerful than any other shaman that there is. And it's a legend and a story that's very well put out. To the right of your screen is what is today a shaman. And shamanism is very prominent with the Limbu community in Sikkim. You'll see he's dressed or draped with this piece of cloth that has these lines of red and black. This is a very ritualistic or traditional clothing that Limbu community of people wear. Shamans have a very interesting, shamanism in Sikkim has a very interesting spin to it. They are considered the medicine men, and their dependence on nature for curing human problems, whether it's emotional or physical. And because it's this animistic nature, the natural environments provides the basis on which all of their ceremonies are practiced. And there are several kinds of shamans. There are ones that specialize in maintaining good relations with the mother god and the father god of this world. And then there are ones that appease our ancestors and the lineage protectors. And they do this, and some of the ceremonies actually is a ceremony of possession, where one of our forefathers will come in possession of this shaman, and he will then instruct the family on their different ways to live their life, or different decisions, or the difficult decisions they have to make. Whether it is getting rid of the familial home that they got from their forefathers, or any other decisions of marriage between communities, things like that could also be things that the forefathers will guide through this ceremony of possession. There are also ones that maintain good relationship with the supernatural beings of sorts, and practices of sacrifice, animal sacrifice, still exists. Although today, shamanism as a belief is slowly becoming extinct for two reasons. Firstly, it's religions like Hinduism and Buddhism have taken over Sikkim. Hinduism coming as an influence from the Nepali region, communities of people who exist in Sikkim today, or the Indian Nepali people. And then, also for the fact that shamanism is now becoming more and more expensive. And we prefer religions that are simplistic in its nature. It doesn't have to have us go through our pockets, go through our deep pockets. That's kind of a very interesting thing. One of the things is a great experience in Sikkim will definitely be meeting a shaman, whether it's interactions or partaking in a ceremony. It kind of is deep rooted into nature and very interconnected between them, and definitely an interesting experience, and some that I've had personally as well have definitely been reasons for us to recommend it. Now, festivities and traditions in Sikkim are also hold on to some of these animistic ideas. On my screen on your left, you'll see a dog garlanded with flowers and with a red colored vermilion called a tika, also on his forehead. This is as part of a festival that Sikkim celebrates around at the same time as Diwali is celebrated in India. The Hindu influence is very strong in this region as well. So they have a mix of Hindu and Buddhist traditions in Sikkim. And so the dog is prayed on that day. All dogs, whether you're on the streets or your own pet dog, is garlanded. A tika is put on it, and he's fed sumptuously before the family themselves feed. To the right of the image of the dog is this mother and daughter who are being blessed in what looks like the hand of an elderly mother or a father. And this is also a festival during the same time of Diwali that Sikkimese people celebrate, where they go out and meet their grandparents and great-grandparents. So they go back to their familial homes, meet cousins, but more importantly, to take blessings from the elderly. And what you see on the forehead is actually rice covered in colored color and put on the forehead of people. It's called a tika in their own version, but it's a lot. It almost completes the forehead itself. Sikkimese people and tradition, a lot of their festivals is definitely filled with a lot of music and a lot of dancing. Definitely part of their ceremonies, whether you're a monk and a lama or whether you're a local villager, traditions hold that you celebrate with music and dance. A very integral part of Sikkimese tradition. There are many festivals, and I can talk a lot more about this, but there's so much more that you can explore by yourself to getting into Sikkim. Now, food, again, is a very interesting and interesting part of Sikkimese culture and tradition as well. There's some really interesting stuff. At the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see cubicle structured, pieces of what may look like cheese, and it is cheese, yak cheese. Actually, this is cheese made by the Drokpas, and it's revered. It's called it's actually it's called dried yak cheese. There's a term for it. I forget, and I keep missing it, but maybe we'll come back to it again. So that's another interesting thing that the Sikkimese love to chew on. It's very hardy, definitely an acquired taste, but an interesting dish. Right above it is what they call a sel roti. This is a special dish that is made during the time of Diwali for Sikkimese festivals. It's a rice-based dish that's fried up, mildly sweet, and has an interesting texture and taste to it. Momos, right at the center of the screen, is definitely a must-do in Sikkim. And there are many varieties of it that you'll get to find, both vegetarian and meat-based. Certainly something that you should try. The Sikkimese also love their thali meals. On your left-hand side, at the bottom of the screen, is a traditional thali meal. A thali, in the literal terms, is the plate itself, and that's a brass plate, pretty heavy in its consistency and thickness and heaviness, and as you hold it. And rice being a very integral part of Sikkimese food as well. Now, right above it, you'll also see another interesting dish. What looks like a grainy brown concoction probably looks like a wooden barrel with straw sticking out. It's called a tongba, and what they're drinking is chang. It's a millet-based beer. Ragi, or four-finger millet, is the millet that Sikkim grows almost exclusively only to make this drink. It's an acquired taste, but a very interesting one to try when you're in Sikkim. This is fermented millet where you pour hot water and you sip out of a bamboo straw. From the bottom of the barrel is where you get the pungent taste of alcohol. Very interesting one to try. Sikkimese also have their own version of what is called a thukpa. And if some of you have traveled into the northeast, into Sikkim, or into Ladakh and some of these regions, a noodle-like brothy dish is what is called a thukpa. But they have their own version with some minor edits to it, but only adds much more taste and flavor to it. If you've tasted a thukpa, you'll love this dish that they make in Sikkim. Pickling is also a very interesting thing that the Sikkimese do, especially during the summer months when the sun comes out. They put all of their chilies, their lime into little salt barrels of water, and they pickle them and they bring them out during the winter months, really as part of how the weather changes and transforms in Sikkim. Now, an interesting fact about Sikkim is also Sikkim is a very spice growing state. In fact, cardamom is one of the most prominent spices of Sikkim, and Sikkim is the second largest grower of cardamom in the world after Guatemala. So if you go to Sikkim, there are two kinds of cardamom you'll get to see. The green pods being the smaller cardamom, and then the brown pods being the large size cardamoms, both very interesting. If you're in Sikkim during the months of October going into November, you'll probably see these spices being harvested. And during the December months is when they're dry and ready to be taken out or purchased from the shops. Now, Sikkim is definitely a place for homestays. For a traveler, it's all about homestays. The pleasant smiles, the hospitable nature of the people in Sikkim, their eagerness to share and open up their homes to you is a very warm and kind gesture. For a rich cultural experience like food, cooking, festivities, celebration, visiting monasteries with a local, definitely staying in a homestay brings you so much more to the region, closer to the region. And there's a whole host of activities for the traveler, whether it is outdoors in terms from nature in terms of bird watching to active treks and bike tours, or whether it is about culture and festivities and visiting monasteries, learning about Sikkimese tradition. There's always something for every kind of traveler in Sikkim. Perhaps Sikkim's perfectness is for the discerning traveler. Here's a small video that we've put together just from a traveler's perspective. Well, those are mostly from some of our customers on a bike tour through Sikkim. So it's a group of people from the UK who came in and loved enjoying these treks. Now, staying with the topic of traveling in Sikkim, I think we've given you a good, well-rounded sense of Sikkim. Now we want to talk a little more, and I'm sure a lot of you are waiting for insights, what to do, where should I go, what to see. So what we've done is we have a compilation of what we call the top 7. Our top 7 experiences of Sikkim are put together in the form of treks, some acted as treks and some as cultural experiences. So we have our top 7. The first 3 of them, not in any order, but are the treks. The first of them is a trek in the Yumtang Valley. This is the northeastern part of Sikkim, famous for its Valley of Flowers, its own version of the Valley of Flowers, not mistaking it for the other Valley of Flowers. This is a lesser known Valley of Flowers of Sikkim, and the rhododendron trek. So Yumtang Valley Rhododendron Trek is definitely something of a must do. And what you'll be amazed by is the different types of rhododendrons, whether it's shrub-like or tree-like rhododendrons. There are many varieties of them. And the different colors, and especially as you get to a vantage point, look down into the valley, this carpets of colors is definitely mesmerizing and a beautiful view to look out for. The second of our treks is called the Lasha Valley Nomads Trek. This is the trek going into North Sikkim. As we reach out and get out and meet the nomads, the Dzongris of North Sikkim, and the yak herders and the shepherds of North Sikkim. The last of our treks is the Green Lake Trek, a beautiful little lake perched up in the mountains. Definitely something for somebody who loves the different types of forests. The hike starts really in the foothills into tropical rainforests, and as you go into the alpine region and transform into this open landscape, beautiful white snow-capped region going up to the Green Lake itself. Definitely another very interesting experience to consider if you're in Sikkim. So the next of our next, of the top 7, the 4th and the 5th will be our bike tours. Our top of the line bike tour is the one that goes from Gangtok southwards toward Darjeeling, winding its way through countryside, villages, monasteries, little hikes here and there, but mostly a bike adventure going through southern Sikkim. And the other bike tour we talk of is, and we recommend highly, is the Old Silk Road bike adventure that goes up towards the north of Sikkim from the Gangtok. Just below the text that you see these winding roads going up to beautiful views. This is the Old Silk Road bike adventure that takes you up to some beautiful vantage points. Definitely another one to consider as you go through. Now, coming to our culture tours, we have 2 unique tours that we organize. Our Homestays and Old Cultures tour tries to bring in the old world of Sikkim, whether it's different communities, staying with the local tribes and, interacting with them, understanding ceremonies, being a part of some of their festivities. A lot of it is planned in ways that it coincides with some of the celebrations that Sikkim has, mostly around the harvest season. Very interesting, more grounded, hands-on kind of a travel experience. The other one is the Sikkim Cultural Highlights. This is a tour that gives you kind of a more overview kind of a perspective, still keeping to the interesting experiences that we offer on all of our Unventured tours. We still want to get you closer to the region through its culture, traditions, and all of that, but a little more comforting in the way we've planned some of our accommodations. Needless to say, both have some brilliant places, a very unique mix of boutique homestays and good hotels or resorts with vantage points and views mixed together for our cultural tours. Now, having said that, what's the good season to go to Sikkim? Well, before we get on to this, we're nearing the end of this session, so I'd like to kind of prompt you to kind of start putting your questions out while I go through the rest of the slides. Sikkim really has 2 seasons, a pre-monsoon and a pre-winter season, according to us. A lot of the seasons may also go into winter through to December. To see some of the frozen lakes, there could be treks that will take you in December into the frozen lakes. But we highly recommend these periods of time. The pre-monsoon time is a time of greenery. Rhododendrons, the valleys blooming with flowers, bird watching and wildlife. Definitely a time also for some active treks and stuff like that. The pre-winter season is more also for its treks, but bike tours, festivals, bird watching, and definitely the best views of Mount Kanchenjunga. The pre-monsoon season still has its clouds coming in and out, so there's a little bit of an unpredictability in when you can get out to see the views of Kanchenjunga. But the pre-winter time is perhaps the best time to get to see some of the views of Mount Kanchenjunga. And there are many treks that will lead you closer and closer to this beautiful mountain range. One of them gets you out gets you out to a point where you get to see the sleeping Buddha, as it's called, as the mountain range and its many peaks on either sides of Mountain Kanchenjunga form a from a human body as it's lying down. And Kanchenjunga is very holy to the Sikkimese people. And so no one summits Kanchenjunga on the Indian side. On the Nepal side, due to respect for their neighboring Sikkim brothers, they don't do many of these treks going up to Kanchenjunga. A lot more because of the revered nature of this mountain and how she is all giving in terms of the bounty of nature. Well, we've also wanted to give you a sense of where to stay. Here are our top 10 picks for where to stay, not in any order. I'm sure there are many ways and permutations that you can plan a trip, but here are some places that we would highly recommend to get out to for truly unique experiences, beautiful vantage points, and brilliant views of the valleys around this whole region. So look out for these places as you go, and definitely highly recommend it on our list of places. Now, we also want to do a must-do, must-see. When you're in Sikkim, you shouldn't miss these 10 things. Highly, highly recommend. Definitely views of Mount Kanchenjunga. You should consider exploring North Sikkim during the winter months. Witnessing the rhododendron blooms. You should stay in a family homestay and eat from their organic garden. Almost every family household in Sikkim will have a small patch where they'll grow most of their food. Oh, and if I haven't already forgotten in the beginning, Sikkim is the only organic state in the country. It's completely organic, so everything that you consume as food is all organic. And so what better way to kind of stay in a place where you can just walk out of the kitchen and get to garden where you can pick whatever you want and make something out of it. So definitely something for you to consider as an experience. Learning to cook Sikkimese food, again, most so possible when you're in a traditional Sikkimese homestay of sorts. But definitely towns like Gangtok and Darjeeling have restaurants that offer such a fare in a meal, which is like the thali meal and the thukpa, a unique version of the thukpa that they have. The thongba or the chang is again something that I would highly recommend. A personal favorite for me as well. I've in fact tried to brew my own thongba coming back home, and so had success and many failures, but I'm keeping at it. One other thing that a lot of you may not know is Sikkim also brews its own local beer. And what I mean by local beer is bottled beer as we drink it across the world. Not a local version of a beer or a wine that is not like a wine or not like a beer. Dansberg, Hit, some of these brands, they're high on their alcohol levels, but definitely something for you to look at and try out. Beers in Sikkim, definitely cheap as well. Definitely try it. Don't forget and miss out on a bird watching session. At the least a half-a-day session, especially around the foothills of the Kanchenjunga mountain ranges. Around towns like Yuksum, there are a lot of birding guides that can take you on a half-a-day, full-day experiences. We do that on almost all of our trips. Some sense of being able to spot some of these interesting birds. Behavior, understanding color, migratory birds, definitely a brilliant experience. Don't miss out on trekking in the Kanchenjunga Reserve. The beauty of this reserve is it starts with, with tropical rainforests and can go up to dry highland deserts, and has a very interesting mix of biodiversity in terms of its plant life or its animal life. The last one, and kind of saved it for the best for the last. Meeting with a shaman. I think that's another big one that's up on the list for us to recommend, that we would recommend highly on this. Quickly, a bit about Unventured. I know I don't want to bore you before we get into the Q&A. At Unventured, we want to bring you closer to the region. We want to take it the local way. We work with a lot of local communities in these regions. Our trek leads or guides from these regions are very well versed in the local culture and tradition. A lot of the stories that they share makes it so much more richer and interesting. The natural beauty, obviously. There's always a bit of an adventure in all of us, whether it is a soft adventure in cultural experiences, jumping in and trying to brew your own chang, or whether it is trying to learn cooking session, or hard adventures where you want to trek up summits to beautiful viewpoints, hike up or bike up through the valleys of Sikkim. Again, a big yay on that front from us. We also want to try and keep it to social and small groups. We curate experiences on request, whether you're a group of family or friends and want to do something, reunions perhaps from school or college, and you want to bring the group together. We curate it based on the interest levels, whether you have a family of kids or adults. We always try and bring in this sense of a local experience. We do it guided, or you can do it self-guided. We will put everything together in a way that you will be able to consume it in its whole sense without us having to bother you along the way as well. Last but not least, one of the other things we're very particular about is safety. Safety for yourself, safety of the region that you're traveling in, and traveling responsibly. I think Unventured is a big advocate of sustainable tourism, responsible travel. We want to make sure this world is a better place for us to travel. And we don't leave behind a lot of trash, but take back only memories. With that, I'd like to introduce you guys to Tejaswini, who's also there with me. She's as a panelist, and I'll kind of unmute her. She's been looking at all of your questions, let's go into questions. We'll try and answer as many as possible. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Wow, there's quite a few questions that I see. So
great.
Over to you.
Thank you, Guru. It was a wonderful webinar. I loved it. We have our first question from Manju Bashini. Go for it.
Hi, Manju. Please ask your question. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, my question is that do you organize trips for solo travelers, kind of helping them plan? And if at all that is the option is there, how many days would I require to see the whole of Sikkim?
Well, it really depends on your interest level. When you say the whole of Sikkim, it could be culture, it could be nature. It's a combination of all of this. And I would imagine that, given that Sikkim has 2 seasons, you may be able to do it in 2 spurts as well. I'd probably recommend that. We're big advocates of slow travel. But just to answer your question, yes, we can curate stuff. We can work with a solo traveler and give them insights. We do have a fee for that. And we'll put you onto or get you connects and all of that, so you can put your budgets on it. Or you can say, hey, you know what? This is my budget. Can you plan something for me? So the various ways we can approach this, talk to us. And you'll be surprised. Everything's possible.
Okay, sure.
Cool. The next question, Guru, for you is from Kartika.
Hi, Kartika.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, you're able to hear me?
Yes.
It's almost the same question the previous caller asked. So about solo traveling, because I've done a few.
Right.
So I'm interested to do one. So I think your answer was quite clear. And for further details, we have to contact you. Is it?
Yes, you can see our numbers and email addresses up on the screen, so you can always.
Yes.
We'll be more than happy to give you.
So is it safe for women to travel solo there?
Oh yes, certainly, very, very.
Okay.
I think one of the interesting things about the Northeast is the culture and tradition of people respecting women.
Okay.
And it's definitely something that you can get out to and do.
Okay, that's it. I think it's almost the same question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Great. The next question, Guru, is from Raghu. And over to Raghu.
Hi, Raghu.
Hi. My question was around those 7 must-see places.
Right.
Are they part of your tours in packaged into one, or are there multiple tours that Unventured carries out?
Well, most of it is covered. Of the 10 different experiences, I think pretty much 70% of those will be covered on pretty much most of our trips. Depending on seasonality, obviously some of those experiences may not be possible as well. It's just a question of region and time that you're in. But yes, we definitely incorporate all of this. This is as many of these as possible, depending on the seasonality. Across the 7 big tours that we have, yes, we cover all of the 10 for sure, and more.
Awesome.
All right.
Raghu, did we answer your question?
I think he's gone off on mute again.
Okay. Cool. The next one is from Niranjan.
All right. Hi, Niranjan.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you for that lovely session, Gurudeep. It was nice to know more about Sikkim. I found that shaman that you talked about, it was pretty interesting. I just want to understand, on a tour, can we meet a shaman? Is that possible? Or are they still elusive, secluded group?
The shamans are, yes, on some of our experience, we try and put out shamans, but they're fewer and farther and harder to find. Definitely something that we do put out on our tours, depending on where we are, all of that. It's a hard one to find, but a lot of the homestays may be able to help you. If you plan in advance and start interacting with them, they may be able to help you if you're traveling by yourself. And if you reach out to us, we can also try and figure that out possibly for you. We'll probably push you in a direction or a specific region specifically for this, but definitely possible, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Yeah, I think that's helpful.
Good.
Great. The next question is from Swati.
Right. Hi, Swati. Hello. Let me unmute you, I think.
Yeah, I think we lost her. I think she's offline.
No, I think.
Hi, Gurudeep.
Hi, Swati. We can hear you now. Please.
Hi. Yeah, the session was it's lovely and it was informative for us. Okay, my question is, do we need any permits to visit North Sikkim?
A very, very, very important and good question to ask. Yes, foreign nationals entering Sikkim will have to get a permit for themselves. They'll have to sign themselves into Sikkim and check themselves out as well. It's a check-in and check-out process. There's no visa, there's no additional charges to enter Sikkim, but there are permits one will have to get. And if you're visiting northern Sikkim, even Indian nationals, non-residents of Sikkim, will require a permit to enter. But these can be arranged in Gangtok as you go from the Gangtok northwards. Very, very good question. A passport for all foreign national, non-Indian nationals is a must. Without a passport, you will not be allowed to enter Sikkim. I hope I answered that question twofold.
Good. We have a anonymous attendee who has who's asked us if members on this call are interested. Is it possible that you guys plan 2 trips for all of us during pre-monsoon and pre-winter? Sounds like a fun trip. I'm going to allow you to answer this live, Guru.
Yes. So presently, Unventured puts out a few bicycle trips, but we definitely love to do that. Just as a precursor to this, I'd like to say that Sikkim, given the current COVID scenario, has shut its gates until September for all travelers, Indian or foreign nationals. And it's a very good move, we believe, in ensuring precaution. What's interesting is that Sikkim has no cases of COVID-19 yet. And unless they're not allowing people in, they will not have any at all. And hopefully by September, the whole region or country will have weaned itself off of this pandemic, and entering Sikkim then will not be as hard or will not be as unsafe for travelers going in. What will be more important is us as travelers going in. Now, coming back to your question, yes, we'd love to do something in Sikkim for you guys. If you guys are interested in doing something in the months of November, which we believe to be a more realistic time to be able to get out to Sikkim given the present scenario, which might also move. But if you're open to this idea of looking at November as a period and time range, just drop us a line. And if we have enough, when we by enough, we're saying about 6 to 8 people or more, we'd love to curate an experience. Just as another note, Unventured will not do groups beyond about 12 to 14 people. So depending on the group and the reason we keep it flexible between 12 and 14, if this is a group of 4 friends joining in, of the 8 who've registered, and then we have 4 more, we'll be open to this idea of adding those 2 people, because also because they know each other. And as a result, they don't feel like they're individuals in a big crowd of people. We want to make travel personalized. There's a connect that you can build with your person leading the tour, who's giving out stories. We don't want you to get lost in a crowd. And so, yeah, we'd love to kind of host something. Reach out to us. You see our numbers on the screen. Please reach out to us.
Great.
Right,
we have one last question.
Perfect. That's good.
And this is from a user, from a participant who's called Galaxy M30. And
We'd
so,
love you to introduce yourself. Please go ahead.
yes. The question is, are any permits required for the old Silk Route? And when do you conduct the Silk Route bike tour?
Well, yes, permits are required as you go northwards beyond Gangtok. So anything south of Gangtok is considered South Sikkim, and anything north of Gangtok is considered North Sikkim as a territory and region. So going into the Silk Route region, you will require permits to be made. And the best time to cycle in this region around the Silk Road, cycle specifically, is during the months of October going into November. That'll be the best time. But you can always also go there on a cultural experience, and some of our culture tours will tread some of that region, not necessarily go all the way up to the Silk Road, but definitely some regions around there. We do it during the months of April and May as well. All right.
That's about it with the questions, Guru.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. I loved it. First of our experiences in starting this. Unventured is going to host a whole bunch of knowledge series on virtual tours. Sikkim is the first one. We'll soon announce our tour in Tamil Nadu, a virtual tour, a webinar in Tamil Nadu, and every 15 days we intend to bring out new destinations for you guys to explore for culture, history, and stories. Little snippets from us, and maybe more so, and keep traveling, keep safe, guys. Tej, any parting note from your end for everybody?
Yes, dream on, and Sikkim is beautiful. I think they're one of the regions that have been green forever now, and there is no other zone for them. They've been green all the while, organically green, COVID green, in every which way green. So Sikkim is a beautiful state to travel in. I personally have been there multiple times. I've trekked and biked there. Can't wait to go back there again. So I hope you will all travel one day to Sikkim. Great, thank you all, and thank you for being an amazing audience. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Good having you today.